Well, g'day everyone. This is Talking Luft, being made possible by, of course, our partner MAAP. Life in the Peloton and MAAP have come together to help continue to tell the beautiful story of all facets of cycling, whether that be through the cool kit that MAAP make or the stories we hear at Life in the Peloton. It's a great combination. Well, it's time for another top 6 this week, and I'm joined by my old mate and the creator of Greenedge's infamous Backstage Pass series, Dan Jones. And we're talking the biggest race of them all, the Tour de France. I'm actually here at the Tour de France right now, experiencing the flavour, the drama that comes along with this race. It is really a beast, but it's why we love it. It's what got me into cycling and so many other pros into cycling. It's followed by millions around the world along the roadside here or in front of the TV. This episode is being also brought to you by Zwift. Now, in 2014, Zwift revolutionized cycling by turning indoor cycling into a game. And since then, it's seen cyclists enjoy virtual training from the comfort of their homes. Zwift Ride is here to take indoor cycling to the new era. Zwift Ride is designed to be the easiest way to set up and ride indoors on Zwift. Zwift Ride is a brand new smart bike developed by Zwift for Zwifting. You ask, what makes it so special? Well, it's developed by Zwift. They know exactly what you need in a smart bike when it comes to Zwifting. With integrated handlebars, with dual controls built in so you can navigate the menus, rides, give, ride-ons and power, and do deploy power-ups and all those sorts of things. It's really, really quiet and it's available at an affordable option. Zwift Ride is being launched all over the world right now while the Tour de France is on. And last week, they were up in Brisbane. This week, they're down in Melbourne for the 11th of July. And if you're in Europe, they'll be around Nice and Rotterdam at the end of July and the start of August. They're partnered up with, of course, Brewdog to host these events. So get down to see the new Zwift Ride for yourself. Of course, grab yourself a cheeky cold one while you're there. And you'll need to get a free ticket from their Eventbrite page. The links are going to be in the show notes. There is nothing worse than having to go out and get your road bike and connect it to your smart trainer every time you want to do a session. With Zwift Ride, you can leave it connected. You can have it set up, ready to go, and be up and running within minutes. It's going to be available in the US, Europe, UK via Zwift.com and WahooFitness.com. Now, if you haven't heard one of these top 6 episodes yet, what I do is I get together with an old mate from my time in the pro cycling circus and run through our top 6 editions of one of the biggest races in the calendar. Most influential editions, best riders, historic wins. We cover it all to give you a personal insight into our most memorable editions of the races we love. I've covered lots of top 6 editions already. Paris-Roubaix with Gossi, that is Mac Goss. Milan-San Remo with Dave Macca-McKenzie. The Giro d'Italia as well, I did with EF Gone Racing's creator, Harry Downey, and a good mate. And if you're new to the Top 6 series, well then go back and have a listen to them, and I'm sure you're going to love them. Like I said, I'm here at the Tour de France, and we're midway through. And look, the boys racing the Tour, they need a good recovery, but also as a journo, I do as well. That's why I bring Pillars Triple Magnesium. Look, I know the teams here at the Tour de France are using Pillars Triple Magnesium to help optimize the guys' recovery, muscle repair, and of course their sleep. I know I don't need to be at peak performance each day to race the Tour, but I still need to feel my best each day out there while I'm trying to cover it and follow these guys around the race. To get out in the morning and get a run, I like to have a beer at night as well too. So what I do to help me bring myself back to zero is get Pillars Triple Magnesium 30 minutes before I go to bed each night. I'm really feeling fully drained at the end of each day. My legs are buckled from the run, and being on my feet all day and mentally I feel frizzled. So I know I need to have a good night's sleep, and that's where Pillars Triple Magnesium is kicking in. Like I mentioned, I like to have the triple magnesium before I go to bed, and I wake up feeling rested and ready to go again. If you'd like to give it a go, head across to pillarperformance.shop and use the code LITP for 15% off your first order. Or for our USA listeners, head across to thefeed.com/pillar. Check it out, guys. That's pillarperformance.shop. All right, guys, get your ears around this one. It does not get bigger than the tour. There's some amazing yarns from Dan and myself. Sit back and enjoy Tour de France Top 6. Dan Jones,
Mitch Docker.
we're doing Top 6.
Mate, what an absolute honour that of all the people you could choose for the biggest bike race on the planet, you've picked your old sparring partner.
I've saved you for it.
You have. I'm almost nervous. Like this is pressure, but like the tour itself, I used to thrive on it. I loved it.
Well, how many tours have you done?
13.
13?
Yeah, 13.
How have you squeezed 13 out?
Well, we'll talk about it later in the potty, but 2005, I cut my teeth, did a doco then, and then went back in 07, and then pretty much did every tour after that till 2017. And then I came back to pinch it in 2022 for SBS, and I haven't been invited back.
Have you got sick of it ever?
I remember at the end of tours when I was doing it for Greenedge, I would need 3 weeks break mentally. And I was talking to Sam Bewley actually last night, who's a sports director now for Israel Premier Tech. And he used to think, how can you ask for or need time off because you never rode it? So why are you whinging that it was hard?
He was saying this as a rider.
As a rider, he thought, oh, geez, soft. Yeah. And now he's on the other side not riding, and he's just done the tour of Swiss. So it's not even 3 weeks and he's cooked. And you'd know it as well, Mitch, like the logistics of the tour, the circus, like it does drain your tank and you're almost running on vapors by the time you're rolling to Paris. But yeah.
What about the rehydration as well each night? That's also, that sort of burns a candle at the other end, doesn't it?
I'm willing to share on your podcast untold stories that if my parents listen to this, they're going to disown me. Look, they're big fans. My old man's a big fan of cycling. I'm not sure he's a regular listener of Life in the Peloton.
That's nice.
Which is great because I do not want him to listen to this episode, put it that way.
Well, just in case anyone doesn't know who you are, let's just quickly rewind because we crossed paths at Greenedge. You were behind the scenes, the creator of the infamous Backstage Pass. But before that, you were over there at the tour working for Fox Sports. And then afterwards, you're working for SBS. Am I covering the bases right?
Pretty much, yeah. I got into the sport through Johnny Trevorrow. And he's a former Australian champion, loved to drink, probably cost him from sort of reaching massive heights as a rider. And that's how, I got into the sport through my father who went on the tour with him in 2004. And then from there, it's just like the mafia, like cycling, the tour. Once you can get in and find your little clique, it's pretty much you got to kill someone to get out of it. I don't know who I've murdered because I haven't been able to get back since 2022, but it's just an unbelievable event. But the people in and around it is what makes just cracking yarns.
Well, look, I haven't done a tour. I've done 3 tours. I mean, I haven't ridden a tour. You haven't ridden a tour.
No.
That's what makes this perfect.
Well, I just wanted to ask you about that because you obviously live in Australia now. And how do you describe Australian sport fans when it comes to cycling? Nuffies or like just general don't understand the sport?
Getting better. It's just so foreign and the only thing they understand is the tour.
So as a former rider, when you tell people you're a professional, the first question you get is, oh, did you ride the tour, mate? And is that one of the parts of your career that you look back on? Because I know your career, you know, Roubaix, Giros, Vueltas. But is that like, did you ever get really close to making a tour team?
I got close in the last few years and I really put a lot of emphasis onto it because the years before that, I didn't put a lot of emphasis on it. I'm not a Grand Tour rider. So to go to the tour, I had to really focus on going there. And it really was never really a focus for me. And then I went, hang on, exactly what you're saying. What happens when I go back to Australia? How am I going to answer that question? Maybe I should try and ride the tour. So I really went for it. I couldn't make it. I got close with EF, went to the final camp, and then they cut me. I got cut last minute. And that was it. My dreams, my hopes of going to the tour were over. But, you know, I was only going there to experience the circus. I wasn't going there to really impact the race. But being on the other side of the fence as a journo the last 3 years, I've got to experience what you're talking about in a pretty cool way. It is really cool to experience that race as a fan, as a journo, as a rider, I'm assuming. in any aspect. You've got to go and see the circus. There's no other word for it, is there?
Well, I feel sorry for you in the sense that you've missed the peak years of being part of the media, because way back when I first started, they really went next level with the media. There used to be this Coca-Cola tent halfway through the stage, and that's where the media could peel off the race route and just get on the cans or get on the local French wine. But the problem was these same guys were getting back in their cars and zigzagging to the finish line. So I think afterwards they thought, oh, well, that's not kosher. And then they used to have these classic second rest day media parties as well. So the tour would always generally used to get stages because it's right at the foothills of the is it the Pyrenees? See, my logistics is terrible.
Yes. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So took a stab there. And so they used to have this rest day party, and it was sort of like 20K out of town. You'd flash your media badge, and one year in 2007, they gave us like this feather scarf, and that got you free grog, like the entire night. But it's 20Ks out of town, like there's not like Ubers back in 2007. So it just caused logistical nightmares. And then you've come into the sport post-COVID. So how much restrictions teams worried about? As soon as you like sneeze in the village, you almost get a tap on the shoulder from the gendarme.
The good thing, my only defense to that is I don't know any different. So I only hear these stories and I speak to other journos and go, this is hell. But I'm like, well, I don't know any difference, and it seems pretty cool to me.
And what I used to love as well is when we were doing the Fox stuff, we'd be in the media village in the press center, and we were last to leave. And it was only because we didn't know what we were doing, and it just took us way too long. But then every media guy, like they all had like legendary status. And there was one guy there who still typed on a typewriter. And he was French, he was old school. He used to eat these cheese wheels, like full-on cheese wheels next to the typewriter, and he didn't look healthy. I think he did die of heart failure, 3 or 4 years after the 2008 tour. But just like, and then there was that other journo that Brian Nygaard loved who looked like Willy Wonka, like the new one, that black hair. He used to always wear black. Like even the media after a while got a bit of an ego and a bit of a status about him.
Well, let's talk about the tour, because this is top 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through our top 5 most influential Tour de France performances or things from the tour that influenced us about the race. Then we've got a little wild card one. We throw it in the mix as well. We throw cat amongst the pigeons and go, what about this one? That's the format of this pod. You ready?
I'm ready, mate.
Well, should we do a bit of background on the tour?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, the tour, it's been around since 1903.
Yep.
And, that's it. Let's
rip into it.
Yeah, that's a bit of background for you. There is a podcast that I've done before about the whole history. I don't want to bore everyone with that, so go back and listen to that one.
People want to hear nuggets. They want stories. Let's go.
Well, I'm going to start with De Keyser.
De Keyser.
Jan Ullrich.
The power here of Jan Ullrich is quite remarkable. Rarely do you see a man sit so firmly in the saddle on a mountain pass and hold the bottom of the handlebars like that.
The man, he won the tour, but he should have won the tour 5 more times.
Absolutely.
This is the most talented guy who should have had 5 in his pocket.
Yeah, and he was a guy that really fluctuated with his weight. Like he was either looking, 5-10 kilos too heavy, or the famous photo of when he won the Sydney Olympics, the flaps on his arms were flapping. It couldn't even wrap around the bone. He was that skinny.
Well, do you think that was because he put his kit on, tried his Olympic stuff when he was big, and then they just kept it like that? Or do you think that was just the times of the jersey?
No, he was gaunt. I remember Whitey was saying the leanest he's ever seen a rider was Jan Ullrich at the Sydney Olympics.
He was so influential for me at the Tour de France because every time I just wanted him. So there was the Lance Ullrich battle, and I was a massive Jan Ullrich fan. I wanted him always to take Lance out. I wanted him to beat Lance, and that's what made that whole battle. As I was growing up, turning on the highlights every night, I'd be just seeing what is happening with this battle. You think about it, Ullrich, 96, his first Tour de France, he's second behind Bjarne Riis. First tour. And look, in those days, he was 22. It's still young. In these times, it's not that young, but in those times, super young. Everyone's just thinking, this guy is going to go on. He's going to crush the tour. Of course, the next year he wins it at age 23. They're like, right, he's German champ. They're like, cool, we saw this coming. But then that's when the problems started. 98, he's second.
To the Pirate.
To the Pirate, of course. 99 knee injury. He misses it. He rides the Vuelta and he wins it. That's the year Armstrong arrives and he wins his first tour. So everyone's thinking, oh, here we go. Imagine if Jan had been there. You know, Lance gets pretty much a gimme one.
Absolutely.
Because Jan's not there. Comes back, he can't beat him in 2000. 2001 again, second. 2002, gets banned because he gets caught on a few party drugs. So he has a bit of a year out. T-Mobile drop him. 2003, second again. And then 2004, it goes a little bit sort of haywire. He goes back to T-Mobile and said, actually, we miss you there. Get back on board. He's got the full squad behind him. He's got Cloden. He's got Vino. That was that year when they were sort of like fighting between each other. Remember that Cloden was chasing Vino down as well?
Yeah.
So they had that sort of internal team battle.
Yeah.
And Lance obviously capitalized on that. You know, 2005, he's third. And it was sort of the end of the era there. He was sort of running out of steam. He was actually battling to get third. He had to try and get Rasmussen off the podium, and he was sort of like settling for third at that point.
How'd he go in 2006?
That was it.
he rolled up to the tour.
Did he?
Yeah, and then that's when he got kicked off, Operation Porto. And the fallout of that was massive because German broadcasters after that said, that's it, we are out. And everyone's like, what do you mean?
Oh, that's right.
They
banned it. I forgot about that.
We're not showing the tour at all. And I think this went on for ages.
Because remember when Kittel came back, he actually renewed the sort of love again in the German. And then they sort of went, okay, look, Kittel's won like 6 stages. We'll put the tour back on.
It's a pretty drastic reaction for an entire continent, like to say, that's it, we're out. Like, we are so pissed off that we're not even going to show the race anymore. Like, we're done. And this, I remember in 2005 when Robbie McEwen won stage 7 into Karlsruhe, they had like 1.5 million people on the side of the road. Like, the sport was absolutely thriving
because
at
of
that
Big
time.
Giannis.
Yeah. And that was it.
So what do you think? Is he an influential for you or no?
Well, he is, and I don't even ride, but his legendary big chain ring was what impressed a lot of people. Like, you know, a lot of it's cadence, and from a spectator's point of view, every now and then when you see someone flick it into the big dog, I mean, from a rider now in the media, is that instant street cred?
Yeah, at a moment where you're like, this is hard, and how can he grind that massive gear? And that was Giannis. That was Big Jan. He just put it in the big gear, he'd stay in the saddle. You rarely saw him out of the saddle. He'd attack in the saddle, and he'd just do the ultimate move. He'd ride people cleanly out of the wheel. He'd never do the surprise attack. He'd always just be like, wait, you in my wheel? You comfortably in my wheel? You ready? I'm just going to ride you out of my wheel right now.
And he holds the record of one of the greatest bins in time trial history. Remember when he came round to that corner pretty hot and just skidded for about 50 metres into the hay bale? I mean, that was one of the most replayed moments in tour history as well.
03.
03, yeah.
All right, what do you got for me, mate? Hit me with it.
I'm going to kick things off on the topic of that era. Obviously, Lance Armstrong. You know, whenever we mention,
you going, Lance? Are you?
Mate, I'm going for it.
Plenty of other stuff Lance has to face for the last time on this farewell tour, starting with the 21 camera salute that greets his arrival every year. Then into his annual pre-race press conference, where he made it clear that he hasn't come just to do a lap of honour.
Every day will be special. Every finish will be special. But I can't let that feeling and that emotion interfere with what I'm trying to do here, because it's, for me, it's not a promenade around France. I'm still trying to win, but I have to balance the two. And many times I'll be sad about it, and many times I'll be happy about it, because there are days when you really wish that you didn't have to do that ever again.
Your criteria was influential riders and years. For me, that was when it all started, because that was when I pitched an idea to John Trevorrow for a doco on the tour in 2005, 3 weeks before the tour. Literally got no chance of this getting up, and the stars aligned before we knew it. I'm 23. All I'd done before was wedding videos, and I'm on a flight to Paris to cover the Tour de France. and I just remember being on the flight, shitting myself, thinking, I have pretty much lied to everyone, including investors, to get money to do this. Hadn't given it much thought or taken it serious, and now I'm on the flight and there's nowhere to hide. Like, I was in hysterics.
What is cycling? Google.
Yeah, mate, it was embarrassing. Like, so my local town sale, ABC Radio got wind that, we've got a local boy over at the tour. We better do a cross. And they thought I was like, knew about the race. So they're asking me questions like, so Dan, tell us how many stages in the tour? And I'm going, 23. And then they go,
they added a couple this year.
Oh, right. And it was just embarrassing. And I just still remember, like, to get the press pass, I was traveling with John Trevorrow and his motley crew of Aussies. And we had to say to SBS, yep, we're filming this anyway. Can we get a press pass? And Mike Tomalaris said, does he shoot on Digi Betacam? And if he's like, yeah. And then he rings me and he says, mate, have you got a Digi Betacam? And I said, piss off, mate. That's like 80 grand. The lenses alone are 50. And he goes, no. You got to have to find out how much it is to hire those. I think it was 8 grand to hire it for the month. So then the first day we had to
Would you fly over with it?
Yeah. You had to put in like special carry-on and all this sort of stuff.
What is that? Is it just like a big one of those cameras that you see the TV?
Correct.
Crew?
On the shoulder, the big bopper.
Oh.
And I'd never used one before. So I didn't know how the audio channels worked, like Iris, nothing.
Were you just pushing the red button and hoping?
Just learning on the spot, like hoping for the best. And I submitted the first tape, which was like pre-tour interviews with Iffy, with like Cadell Evans and that. And I'm on the wide shot and there's cables, and Iffy was about 30 kilos heavier at the time, so his guts is in the shot. Submitted this to Tomalaris and got the tap on the shoulder from him an hour later. He's like, get in here now. And he goes, mate, have you ever filmed TV before? And I said, no. And it was at that point I just thought, just be honest.
Yeah.
I said, all I've done is wedding videos, and I'll be honest with you, mate, even they were shit house. And he just throws his hands on his head and he goes, oh, no, this is the first year they've gone live to air. And then I had to get full on the job training with Honey Farrington, who was their camera person at the time, and just taught me how to shoot for TV. So learning on the seat of my pants, but the first time trial, we're in an area where they were known for oysters. And I remember Iffy eating like 50 oysters, and he was crook that night. But I just remember standing face to face with Armstrong and Ulrich before they went up the ramp thinking, how did I end up here? You know, and you've seen the crowds, like being over the other side of the barricades, I just, my brain couldn't comprehend. And as the tour went on, because we were traveling with this group of drunks basically, and they still had the Coca-Cola parties, and it was just wild. Like that stage I was telling you about, Karlsruhe, when Robbie McEwen won, I got paired up with Dennis Connell, who's like a journalist from Australia, and yeah, he loves a drink as well. And literally this stage changed his life, because we get to 2 a.m, and I wouldn't do this nowadays, but back at 23, you know, you're always out on the terps. We go to bars, and Dennis goes, listen, mate, we've got to go film at the start tomorrow. We need to shut down. I said, one more bar. We went to Scruffy's bar, and long story short, we met a couple of girls from Finland. He ended up having a relationship with Susanna. They ended up getting married, having a child, and they named that child Daniel. No shit.
Amazing.
No shit. I mean, they got divorced since. It's not a great story, but, you know, this kid
didn't need to add that bit in.
No, like just in case people go, geez, you left that bit out. People that know Dennis. But yeah, and then that race, I remember 50% of the crowd was American. Like Americans are the greatest bandwagon sports supporters in the world. And we spoke to a lady who worked at the tour, and they were inundated with Americans ringing up asking for tickets to the Tour de France. Hey, I got my family coming over from Texas. You know, we want to buy family premium packages. And they'd have to say, mate, the tour's free.
Just rock up.
It's free. You go on the side of the road and just watch it.
05 was Lance's 7th time, was it? Yeah. So it was the end. It was the end, really.
Yeah. And the posse that Lance used to bring with him of celebrities, like the final day, we're in the village, and I had to ban one of the guys, Bill Schwarzenberg, from any interviews, because at the top of Courchevel, when Valverde won, he was drunk as a skunk, and he thought the soigneurs were part of the caravan, and they were giving out T-Mobile jackets. So he goes to rip a jacket off one of the Swannies and almost got into punch on. It was embarrassing. So we said, Bill, I'm not filming you for the rest of the trip. So we get to the village the last day, and Ron Howard, the director's there filming the Da Vinci Code. And there's no one else to interview Ron. And I was left with Bill, who's probably had 3 wines in the village. And I said, look, Bill, there's a VIP over there. Can you do an interview? But, mate, be on your best behaviour. And he goes, oh, yeah, no worries. Who is it? I said, it's Ron Howard. And he just went blank. And this guy grew up in the country, doesn't watch TV. I said, you know who Ron Howard is? He goes, no. I said, you know Happy Days? He goes, no. I said, listen, just ask him about Lance and we'll go for it. As soon as we go over there, we're giving out kangaroo badges. He badges Ron's wife, kisses her on each cheek, then one on the lips. And I'm just like, oh, it couldn't go any worse. And his wife, and Ron Howard goes, hey, taking advantage of the region there. And his wife goes, I think the third kiss was Australian. And it was an awesome interview. And after that, we're on a roll. So we got Senator John Kerry at the finish line, Sheryl Crow. That's what I loved about that tour. It was my first tour, but the aura that Armstrong had, we all know his story. We all know it's wrong. But the money that guy pumped into the tour, like that brand from 99 to 05 went stratosphere, because you get a hometown hero with his story at the time. Americans just ate it up. And for all the good and the bad, I just remember those moments just really fondly because, you know, in over your head, in the deep end, and just unbelievable.
Yeah, the tour, it really, like you said, and that was a period that I was coming into it too, into cycling myself, and it was so influential for me, you know, for the wrong reasons or whatever you want to call it, but it drove that passion for me to want to go pro. And they were still, in my memory, some of the best battles.
It's almost like the WWF that period.
Yeah.
Like, we know it was fake, or we know there was it wasn't genuine. But geez, when you go back to just the battles, like you're talking about Ulrich, Armstrong, you know,
even Mayo, you had Bolocki.
Cipollini in his heyday. It was a great spectator sport back then, and just the egos, you know, you don't get that in modern day cycling, the egos of guys that just dominated races.
I'm going to go into my next one.
Yep.
And this is very much off the back of that. And I know we're dwelling in this era, but it's such a good era. The 03 Tour, 2003. There has been no better tour, in my opinion. They called it the Centenary Tour because it was 100 years since the start of the tour, but it was actually the 90th edition.
Yeah.
So much great stuff about this. Jan Ulrich, he's in Team Bianchi, that Celeste green.
Yeah.
Then you had Tyler Hamilton to the left, gone to CSC. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
He crashed, breaks his collarbone, rides through with a broken collarbone. Lance starts in yellow. You remember that?
Yeah.
He started in the yellow jersey in honour of the race organiser, Honoré de Grange. The opening prologue.
This is David Miller, wasn't it?
Well, remember this?
As we switch to the finish now, McGee is going to topple Jan Ulrich as well as Bradley McGee takes the lead. 7:26.16. Now he's going to have to wait and see what David Miller can do.
Bradley McGee comes across, wins it. He salutes, actually. It's early. And then you've got Miller coming. Miller's like the favourite to win it. Drops his chain, picks it back up, loses by 0.08 of a second.
Yeah.
McGee's interview after that, I was in the zone. I had my brother in the car. I was in the zone. I remember watching it going, far out. This is so good, you know? And then as the race kicks off, you've got, remember, it was about stage 9. Yoshiba Bolocki has that crash as they're coming down. They descend into Gap, actually. And Armstrong goes cross country.
Yeah.
Cuts across. It was just, things just kept building.
Paul Sherwin almost blew a head gasket, remember? he remember his famous calls, this is unbelievable. Like that high pitch, like.
Oh, and Bolocki's gone down. Armstrong, complete control there. He's into the field, but what a great bike rider. He's gone across. This is unbelievable. I've never seen this before. Armstrong went across the field there. He's back on the road at 4 kilometers to go. What great reflexes from the man from Texas. Tyler Hamilton coming along there, touching him on the shoulder. This is unbelievable. That man was in complete control there. Watch this again. This is Yoshiba Bolocki locking up the back wheel. His tire has come off. Armstrong has gone across. Alexander Vinokurov, I think, has gone down as well. This is unbelievable. Armstrong riding across the apex. Oh, this is incredible. Armstrong is such a star.
It was ridiculous. He cycled across through the field. He jumps down. He gets back in the Peloton. People were trying to but he took a shortcut. I'm like,
mate,
this is
awesome.
It was so good. The best part for me was we get to stage 12. It's a TT. It's a 47K TT, boiling hot. And there's that continual battle, Armstrong versus Ulrich. Suddenly, Jan warms up in some bike shop with air conditioning and all this sort of stuff. Armstrong warms up outside. They start off. Jan pumps him, beats him by 1:30.
Ulrich drives up the straight here now. He's going to beat the hour. 58.32.92. Now, Lance, it's all up to you.
Suddenly Armstrong's just like, what? He was 2:10 behind the stage before, finishes a minute 36 in front of him. He gets the gap to 34 seconds. Suddenly there's this massive belief, especially from my side, like,
He's going to do it.
this is it. This is the tour. He's got the kit. Mayo's there as well. Then you remember what happens? Stage 15, up Luzarden, the bag. Armstrong's out of the seat, attacking.
yeah.
His bars gets caught on the bag, flips down. Ulrich waits for him.
Armstrong was waiting for somebody to pull in the flag, and now it was even. Oh, what's happened here? What has happened there? It seemed quite a normal corner. He must have hit somebody in the audience. Mayo has gone.
Armstrong gets picked up by his teammate. Who was his teammate? It was Cheche Ribeira. Gets him back. Armstrong attacks, wins the stage. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, but Armstrong waited for Ulrich the stage before when he crashed as well. Ulrich waited for him. There was way more respect back then, even though they were complete sort of, enemies and battling against each other. There was an element of respect, and you've seen that since retiring. Armstrong had so much respect for Ulrich as his major sort of competitor. The final TT, though, we've spoken about this already. Stage 19, it was set up. Ulrich had lost a little bit of time. It was a minute 6 he had to get back in the last TT. It was wet. 49 came. How long were the TTs back then?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Miller actually wins this one, but as they're coming in, the final Ks, Ulrich's up on Armstrong, and Armstrong's looking good. He's got 10 seconds on him. He still needed a minute. It was touch and go whether he was actually going to get it, but I want to believe he was going to get it. And like you said, he touched down.
Oh, Ulrich's gone down.
Ulrich has crashed. Well, we can't see Hamilton finish because this is what everybody is worried about. Ulrich has gone down, and he was in the lead by about 6 seconds when he fell. We can look at this now. These are the grease on the roundabouts, and they saw the sparks flying.
Unbelievable. It is a very dangerous time trial. He's gone into the bales. Thank goodness there were bales at the side of the road.
Yeah.
You want even made it better? The actual sparks came out of his bike. When does sparks come out of a guy's bike when he hits the ground? I couldn't believe it. Sparks came.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. It's just like added to the whole story, this beautiful like.
And it was on every cycling promo for the next 10 years when they go, the Tour de France.
It was a script.
Toughest spectacle on earth. And then they add the sound effect of the and then the skid and the sparks. Yeah. But
it was such a good tour.
we did a potty once with Cookie and Miller about that tour.
Right.
And Miller's like story on that time trial you're talking about and how drunk he got
The night before.
after he'd won. He's sitting there waiting around just smashing 1664s, waiting for the prezzo. And he famously gets up in his tracky pants and his T-shirt. And I think, I didn't know it at the time, but I think in retrospect, Miller looks back at those days and he goes, like most of us, you look back, you're young, you're a bit excitable. And I don't think he likes reliving all that stuff, but I was like drilling it in, replaying interviews because his post-race interviews were hilarious.
He'd had a long wait in the team camper van too, watching everyone else fail to beat him. Matt Rendell nabbed him on the walk to the podium.
This was the Centenary Tour. It's a race that's had absolutely everything, and now it's got a David Miller stage win. You must be delighted.
I'm in the clouds. I'm not walking there, I'm floating.
And also the battle with Cookie and Robbie McEwen for the green jersey.
That's also what happened that year. Yeah.
But the fact that there's all this, and as a rider, like you can rope in your mates. Like there was one day that Cookie roped in Miller to get on the front and like drive the sprint and all this sort of stuff. And then it all came down to the final stage in Paris where Cookie famously nudges out Robbie by a width of a tyre. And Cookie just recently last week spoke at a function and he said, McEwen openly tells people, I was first to congratulate Baden, to say thanks as soon as I saw him. And Cookie goes, what he leaves out of that story is that's after he went to the commissaire to complain and put in an official complaint about the sprint. And once that was dismissed, then he went and said, congrats. So
that battle was super hot because you remember early on, Cookie won a couple of stages early. And then was it the first time he won a stage in the tour?
Yep. And also Brad McGee had the yellow jersey.
McGee had the yellow jersey at the start. He was leading him out in the yellow jersey.
Yep.
The final GC was Lance Yarn. Vino was third. Hamilton still rode to fourth. And Zabodia was fifth.
Another nugget from that tour was IMAX did a special on the tour that year, and it was all going to be on Tyler Hamilton. But when he broke his collarbone and then all this other stuff came out, they pivoted and had to reshoot a lot of stuff because it was then on Baden Cook.
Was it?
Yeah. It was all about the mindset of a rider in IMAX cameras. Yeah.
It's such a good tour. Like, if you haven't gone back and rewatched it, and there is actually a DVD of it. I've seen the DVD of the 2-3 tour, actually.
I think it's online.
Yeah.
You watch it on YouTube.
It's by far the best tour.
I agree, mate.
Yep.
100th edition. No, 100th anniversary. Sorry.
100th anniversary. What do you got for me then?
All right, mate. Well, I want to flick over to 2007. I want to really just highlight one of the best wins I've seen, and that was Robbie McEwen. That was in the opening stage because the prologue, it started in the UK. This was a big deal at the time. Yeah. And just the crowds, were just insane. And Stewie O'Grady actually had a blinder of that prologue. He was really going. It was won by Cancellara, but Stewie again hit the hay bales and another great crash footage. But stage one, they rode from London to Canterbury, 203 Ks, and with 20K to go, mass crash. And Robbie McEwen unfortunately caught up in it. He's riding for Lotto at the time. He's getting to the back end of his career. He won the green jersey 2002, 4, 6. He'd won 11 stages up to this point. Everyone's going, how many more good years has he got left? Crashes on that stage. Everyone's like, oh, he's done. He's done because, the Peloton are going into
20K to go is practically in your mind as a rider. You need to be in your position. That's it. It's over. You're not coming back from the back of the Peloton, let alone being off the back.
Yeah, and just to get back on is neon impossible. So he has this crash and then he gets his full team to commit and they are just chopping off coming into Canterbury. And this day, they've estimated it's the biggest crowds ever at the tour. They've estimated 2 million people on the side of the road.
I believe that.
Yeah, it was insane.
It was insane.
Coming into the final and Phil Liggett's famous commentary, can't see McEwen at all till right to the very end, gets to the front, ends up winning by about 5 lengths.
We've got to talk about the comeback. The team's just doing the peels.
Oh, yeah.
They're just the guys are just riding he's got no teammates left.
Yeah.
He uses his last teammate to get him to the back of the bunch.
Yeah.
But then he has to get from there to the front.
And you're up against, Boone and Hushoff,
let alone if he's just screwed from getting back.
And I reckon, I don't know, how does your body go after a crash in terms of, do you get this surge of adrenaline?
He would have had to have had that. The adrenaline of the crash, but also, are we going to get back? It would have been going crazy.
Robbie McEwen is coming. McEwen, the acceleration on the middle of the picture. The man off the back is going to win. Robbie McEwen, the man from nowhere. Welcome home. Unbelievable. I don't know how on earth does that happen.
And for him to win that stage, when he won, we were right on the finish line. I was with Dennis, who, again, professional drunk. And when Robbie crossed the line, Dennis just lets out this massive scream "Rah!" It was deafening. And the world media heard this and thought that Dennis was Robbie McEwen's right-hand man. So all of a sudden, Dennis is doing all these world media grabs BBC Radio, spitting out these lines Robbie McEwen is the fastest man on 2 wheels ever. He's got the heart of a lion, just throwing out all these cliches. And then, of course, in the post-race interview, he'd run this joke all through McEwen's career. They go, okay, now we have a question from the media centre. And then Iffy goes, Robbie, how does this compare to winning a stage at the Bay Crits? And it was funny the first time in 99, but it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable stage.
What did McEwen say? Next question.
Oh, he's just Iffy, mate, phenomenal. It's always great, but never compares to the Jayco Bay Cycling Classic.
Next question.
Yeah, but that was actually the first tour that Jerry Ryan went on, who now obviously started Greenedge. And that set him off on a path of understanding how big the tour was, and here we are.
That is a really, really good one. I didn't think about that. I love that stage into Canterbury, that comeback. The only thing that reminded me of that recently was Milan's comeback at the Giro. He crashed in the last stage of the Giro this year and he came back. It was nowhere near as epic as that, but it reminded me of that.
Also, that was the year, obviously, Cadel Evans finished second, and that was when everyone took notice. Contador rolled him. But he only lost by 23 seconds, and he won his first stage when Vinokurov was rubbed out for blood doping. And I remember the press conference because they were on the back of 2006. The tour were very clear that that's it. We can't have any more instances. And then there was this snap media conference where they like, all media to the press centre right now. And everyone's like, because the internet wasn't good those days. I remember that was the year Iffy came back and had a bill from Telstra for $2,800 for mobile Wi-Fi or whatever. And I just remember the look on their faces like, here we go again. And that robbed Cadell of, the stage victory that year. But he got it in retrospect. But yeah, that was the year that we were all like, oh my God, we could have a Tour de France winner. That's where it all started.
All right, what am I going to go with? I'm going to rewind it. I'm going to rewind back to 98.
Yep.
Aussie, pretty much one of the reasons why I got into cycling. The weird thing is I ended up becoming teammates with the guy. Who would have ever thought that? O'Grady, 98, yellow jersey. The freckle.
But the yellow jersey, that goes to Stuart O'Grady now. He becomes only the second Australian behind Phil Anderson to pull on the maillot jaune. And that's a great result for him.
I didn't know him at all. I didn't really even know what the Tour de France was or anything like that. I was purely watching 6:30 highlights on SBS. It would come on. And in 98, I was 12 years old. So I saw it. O'Grady. And I had to go back and have a look at the story to understand how he actually got the yellow jersey. Because, look, O'Grady had the yellow jersey. We had Phil Anderson before that with the yellow jersey. But, I didn't know about Phil. I didn't really know anything really about cycling. So for me, it was so iconic when I saw this Aussie guy having the yellow jersey and understanding what the Tour de France was. And, Tom Laris was so excited about it in the team and he was in Gann. It was so exciting. But so in the first prologue, his teammate, Boardman, takes it, gets the yellow jersey. O'Grady's actually not that far behind. He's 15 seconds behind. He's sitting at about 20th. But the next couple of stages play out. There's a couple of sprints. And in stage 3, he gets in a breakaway finish. You'd never see that these days, stage 3 going away for the breakaway. And Bo Hamburger, he actually takes the jersey. O'Grady finishes 5th. The next stage, he goes for the intermediates and he gets the 3 seconds that he was behind and he takes the jersey. He hangs on to the jersey for a few stages until Jan Ulrich takes it in the TT. But for me, it was just capsulating for me, seeing the Aussie, seeing O'Grady was such an iconic, he rode 17 tours in the end. It was so iconic for me throughout my whole sort of influence of coming into cycling and then eventually riding with him in the team. Yeah, that started right back in 98. Were you even watching the tour then?
On and off. Like Dad back in the 90s controlled the TV in most houses. And so 6 to 6:30, we had to watch the tour highlights. Yeah. I still didn't understand how the mechanics work, but I still remember whenever an Aussie did something, either, stage win or in this case, taking the jersey. Yeah, of course, because all you know is if you wear yellow. But back then I was like, Dad, is he going to win it? Yeah. And Dad looks at you like, jeez, no. What sort of question is that? But how did you go when you finally did ride with him? Did you pick his brain for tips or anything like that?
Well, it was pretty weird because I was pretty starstruck. Like you come into Greenedge when it was 212 and O'Grady was still, he was still a good rider right to the end of his career. And I had to make that mental switch. I was like, hang on, these guys, Cookie as well, McEwen, Alan Davis, Lancaster, these guys aren't sort of people I need to, well, I still looked up to them, but they're not like, I've got to just treat them as my teammates.
Yeah.
I can't be sort of like, oh, actually, mate, can you sign the back of my jersey when you get a sec?
Yeah.
And that was a hard transition. You can't just naturally do that. To have them, I remember when I was in Torino, Adriatico, and I got a late call up and Daryl Impey was there as well and Gossi was the sprinter at the time and Imps was just on a bad one. And he said, oh, Mitch, you're going to lead Gossi out today. I was like, wow. I'm not really doing lead outs. So I don't know if I'm good enough to lead Gossi out. I was like, oh, I'll wrap my head around that. I'm like, yeah, O'Grady's going to look after you all day. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So then I'm riding in O'Grady's wheel the whole day.
Yeah.
And it was just like smooth. It was just like one of the best rides I've ever had. Just sitting in his wheel. I was like,
all the experience.
Do not lose this guy's wheel.
And they were the old school era that modern day cycling is all about data, wattage. Like riders spend so much time looking at their stem to dictate how they feel or ride during a race. But he's the old school, just race on feel, and I reckon that, do you think it's going to come back? Like it has to eventually to have that balance because
when everyone gets so good, then eventually that's going to have to come back in, the experience.
Yeah. But no, that's a good shout, 98 for sure.
All right, what do you got for me?
All right. Well, obviously this is a big one. Everyone in Australia remembers where they were. Cadel Evans, 2011.
Nice.
Cadel Evans cannot be beaten now. He is over a minute to the good. He has absolutely slaughtered his opposition in just 42.5 kilometres of racing. His time is 55.40. It's second best on the day. He shrugs his shoulder, but he's won the Tour de France.
Now, we touched on it before 2007, and he had a trajectory where it was 8th in 05, 4th in 06, 2nd in 07. So naturally, 08, I'm pretty good at maths and detecting trends. He's going to win it. And that was the year that Contador obviously wasn't allowed to start. And he was the first rider to come in wearing the number 1 without winning it the year before. So there was a little bit of pressure in that year. And I remember that Lance Armstrong had this bodyguard surge that he had to hire in the 03 tour because the crowds were getting insane. And this guy just loved the taste of blood, this bodyguard. Like, over the top. If you were journo trying to get a grab, you'd cop like an elbow to the chops.
He just like got the authority power trip.
Mate, nutbag. And so 08, Cadel gets Surge to help him for the crowds. And we're looking at each other going, are you shitting me? Like, he doesn't need a bodyguard. What are you talking about? And just seeing the trajectory through those years, he was so badly managed. And Cadel's someone that he just wants to ride his bike. Because remember there was the famous interview.
Don't stand on my dog or I cut your head off. Say, look.
There was another one where, don't touch me, and he's slapping hands away. And it was seriously chaos. Scotty McGorry got thrown in the rose bushes from Surge post-race one day. I thought that was hilarious. Scotty still has PTSD about it. But then he goes to BMC. So we start 2011 and we're thinking, we saw the year before, like, okay, he's a different rider. He seems like mentally in a better headspace. Going 11, everyone's talking about Contador, the Schlecks. Like, I think before he started, he was paying about 25 to 1.
Did you get $1 down?
I should have.
Mate, everyone should have in the hindsight.
I know, but I honestly didn't think he was going to win. So we go to the press conference to kick the tour off, and it was all about their team time trial bike. And they're all saying, because everyone waffles on about their tech, but they said this bike in its testing is 2.5% faster than anything on the market. So we're crunching numbers and we're going, geez, hang on.
That's quite a lot.
If that's correct, that's like a minute on the final time trial. Jesus, And as the race went on, Cadel didn't feel any pressure. And he was so much better in the media scrums.
Because he had that minute.
Yeah, he knew, I've got a minute in the bank. Yeah. Like, just chill your jets. And as the race went on and it was more evident that it's either going to be Cadel or the Schleck brothers, it came to that famous stage up to Glibier where Andy Schleck goes on the attack, and it was Cadel that was the line in the sand, probably the most defining moment in Australian cycling history, where Contador's not going to pull. Obviously, Schleck's not going to do anything.
His brother, yeah.
Yeah, Vukler's in the jersey.
He's just hanging on for grim death anyway.
Yeah, doing those bloody facial expressions. Remember how much people love Vukler because he's a cat? I thought he was a flog. Anyway, Cadel gets on the front and just starts pulling the gap back.
Evans continues to fight to try and round it out to 3 minutes before Andy gets up to the finishing line. And look how he's reduced this with his incessant pacemaking. There's only 5 riders following Cadel Evans now.
He's churning a massive gear, the rider in the black and red jersey there, Cadel Evans, because all he's thinking about is trying to reduce the deficit onto Andy Schleck.
And we were
he just committed. I remember.
Full commit. The issue for us in the media were the scrums, and these were getting really vicious. I'm talking.
What about Surge?
Well, Surge wasn't. He didn't transfer to BMC.
Yeah, that's true.
And what was embarrassing for Cadel is in 09 he had Surge, and then when he was off GC, Surge is contracted for the tour. So then Surge went from, I don't even need to protect this guy because no one wants to interview him now that he's 30th on GC. So Surge was just there to get him coffees and shit. Like, he wasn't even there as security.
You actually became mates with him in the end. G'day, mate. How are you?
So when the scrums got so bad at the finishes for Cadel, it got to the point where we could barely get a grab. And, you're dealing, we were at Fox at the time, me, Scotty McGrory. Fox are going, listen, we don't care if you don't get anyone, just get Cadel. And you're like, oh, you're feeling the pressure. So the penultimate day up the top of Alpe d'Huez, I said to my dad, who'd been on the tour, done nothing the whole tour. He's just there for a bit of a junket, but he had a press pass. I said, righto, his nickname's Emu. I said, Emu, I've got one job for you today. He goes, what's that? I said, you are taking out the Americans. at the finish line. NBC were giving me the shits the whole tour, marching in. Hey, Cadell, great stage today. And I'm thinking, piss off. Like, there's an unwritten rule. Wherever that rider's from, which country, you get first crack.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Anyway, I'd had enough. So I said to Dad, can you do it? And he goes, yeah, I'll do it. Like, so it's on. So after Cadell crosses the line and it's all down the time trial, I knew the scrum was going to be huge. We get to the scrum and we're running across and then it just ants onto a dead moth. And we turn around and Emu has laid the biggest hip and shoulder on the camo and he's just gone ass over tit. Almost like we were talking about that camera before. He's carrying one of those digital. Almost smashed it. The guy's in absolute pieces.
How did the camera not get smashed?
Well, I don't know. But the beauty was Emu's done the hip and shoulder and then bolted. So, like, there's no witnesses, nothing. Like, he just couldn't have done any better in that moment. So we're all around the scrum and Cadell's media manager goes, all right, SBS, go. And he goes, Fox, go. And then he goes, NBC. And then you look around and he goes, NBC.
You go, yeah, we'll do another one.
Nowhere to be seen. I looked at the corner and the guy's like, he's got all bark off him. And we get back, we got like a great grab and we were so ecstatic, high-fiving each other, like, great job, baby. It was just dirty tactics. But I'll never forget the feeling of that time trial. We'd been through it before in 08 where we're like, he's going to roll Sastre, minute and a half. Yeah, I think he can do it. Like, he'll pipe him. But he mentally cooked himself. Like, he did his warm-up inside the bus instead of just normal routine. Like, cooked himself the whole tour. So then when it came to Schleck, like, he had to make up, what was it, a minute and 2 or something?
Yeah, it was doable. It was just over a minute, yeah.
Yeah, but as you know, like, how many times, imagine if you had a drinking game watching the tour, every time someone goes, oh, the yellow jersey gives you wings. They're all those cliches, but it's true. So we didn't know if Schleck was going to ride an absolute blinder. So when the time gap got closer and then when he started gapping him and we're like, oh my God, we are here to witness the first Aussie to win the Tour de France. Like, it got really emotional for everyone. And then going into the last day on the Champs, we fully committed to Fox. We got 20 interviews with everyone. But we hadn't got Cadell yet. And we were really stressing, going like, shit, if we send these off on the last day and we don't get Cadell, we're dead. And it just so happened that Cadell walked up in front of the Aussie supporters in yellow, got this amazing 2 minutes with Scotty, wrapped the whole experience for us. And I just remember I couldn't control my emotion anymore. I just started bawling my eyes out.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And Scotty looked at me like, whoa, geez, that's a bit full on. Like, I think I was going through some other stuff at the time, like, I don't think I had much money in the bank. I was just stressed about other stuff. But it was just a real emotional moment. And the fallout, remember like the parade in Fed Square?
Yeah.
And that really felt like, geez, I hope as a country we capitalise on this popularity of the sport.
Do you think we have?
Nah. Oh, no. I think Jerry's got a lot to play in terms of what he's done with Greenedge and, the evolution of that. And you've got like Jai Hindley and such a good group coming through, but I think it still frustrates me that hasn't reached mainstream. I mean, the tour is still the tour. Like, people love watching the tour, but it hasn't spewed into the rest of the season. Yeah.
It's going to be hard to beat that. We should have saved that one for last, shouldn't we? All right.
No, we got heaps in the can.
Look, let's punch through this one. To butt up against that, 212, Bradley Wiggins.
I think we double up, and I'll throw in Goss as well that year.
Okay, let's do 212.
Yeah, 212.
Because look, the reason why it was influential for me was I was there racing. I was there when Cadell won too. But the whole Sky project wasn't there at the race, but I was in Europe. I mean, the whole Sky project was happening, and for me, it was quite influential because I felt like they really took the sport to a new level. The way that they went about things, they came in, the way that Wigo was sort of the rider that everyone sort of really liked, in terms of he looked really good on the bike. He could sort of do everything. He was an awesome trackie, and then he was a time trialist. And then the idea that he could transform himself into a Tour de France winner was this whole project getting closed off, with the British cycling program. And they needed that, they wanted that. The first British winner, we're going off the back of the first Australian winner, the first British winner. And I sort of really admired what they were doing there with the Sky project.
Do you remember the first sign that they had their shit together more than any other team was when they had someone employed to just be in charge of riders' beds?
Yeah.
That's
And
when
now-
I was like, what?
Now that's a common practice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I wouldn't say every team, but there's a handful of teams that do that.
Which makes sense. Get a good night's sleep.
But it's just insane the level that they went to, the amount of money they had behind it. But they took cycling in a whole sense to a completely new level, which we've seen continually grow. But as you said, with Lance, there was sort of this period where I don't think Sky could have existed without Lance, almost in a way. The way what he did with US Postal took the sport from this really European traditional sport, the American sort of flavour to it, yet it still had a lot of tradition within US Postal. They couldn't go as far as Sky, but they sort of went the halfway point that when Sky came in, they could go, cool, let's finish this job off. Let's make this sport like at current day level of...
I think Cav is another influencer. You think of like the amount of interest he gathered through that 07 to 2009 period, how many stages he won to drive interest in the UK.
With HTC.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's one thing to have the money. Like, as we're seeing, like Ineos now, like they're sort of on a bit of a downward trough and they've still got budget, but it's getting the right riders, and they were ahead of their time in terms of Brailsford and his whole theory on marginal gains.
And look, I think that was the icing on the cake. They had to clinch it. They had to get that win. Everyone talks about it, and I think it's been maybe a thing that's sort of been the heel in, the thorn in the heel for Greenedge is that they need that Tour de France win to sort of close it all out.
Yeah.
Well, then what are you talking about with Gossi then, 212?
Well, that was the first Tour de France the team Greenedge had ever ridden, and they got in their heads, well, our name's Greenedge. I know. What if we win the green jersey? Makes sense. Who are we going to do it with? Matt Goss. Now, Gossi isn't a traditional sprinter in the sense, he's fast, but that was the year that Sagan burst on the scene. And the amount of pressure that Gossi had on his shoulders, and you look at some of the results, like there was one day early on that he was so close to winning the stage in Greipel. He just went 50 metres too early. And the stress that it caused in the team throughout that tour where stage 13, his head just completely fell off.
I'm not up today, dude. I'm feeling like no one's helping us.
Come on, man. Don't think about the others.
Hey, we've already committed. I don't give a about the others. I feel like
Well, then Impey gets his chance.
I said that to Impey. I said if they want to keep riding, ride for you. He said he doesn't feel that great, but it's up to him to speak to you. I don't want the guys to ride for me today. I don't feel
And I look at it now like I was very early on in doing the backstage. I used to love running everything, run all the vision. And I ran the in-car vision of Whitey saying, Gossi's just like, I don't want him to ride for me anymore. I'm out. Like, and he's going, yeah, but we're fully committed. Like, yeah. And Whitey's in the zone.
Is this in the backstage?
Yeah. Yeah, I ran it.
Yeah.
And it really showed our cards. But I thought if people understood the pressure and the stress, and it was a real moment. But what I didn't understand is it's also real time. So riders are seeing this in real time. I look back now and I go, if I had my time again, I would have protected him a bit more. But I really did feel for Matt Goss and the pressure that the whole team put on him throughout that Tour de France, because they sort of looked at, we didn't win a stage. There was a couple of top threes or whatever. It just felt like a real sinking failure. And
considering the start the team had it in that whole season, the team started really well with Gero in Australia, Down Under, San Remo.
Oh, yeah.
And the tour was looking like it was going to be another success story, but actually that was sort of the dip, wasn't it, in 212?
Yeah, and like for me, like I remember Paris, I just grabbed a bike and thought, bugger it. Remember they did like the ceremonial lap.
Did you ride the last stage, did you?
Yeah, let him out. It was such a thrill, like jumping on a mountain bike and riding with the team, waving the crowd, like jumping on these guys' bandwagon that had just busted themselves for 21 stages. But I just remember thinking, okay, they didn't do anything in the tour this year, but at least it's sort of like it gives you that experience. And it's like anything, you got to bottom out to start that journey of the climb up again. Just on Wigo, remember that famous stage when Froome went off the front and went against team orders?
Oh, Wiggins is left. Wiggins is dropped. Bradley Wiggins is dropped. Christopher Froome has gone ahead, and Bradley Wiggins is dropped. Froome looking behind him. What's going on? He's giving him the big chop. Oh, he get into the radio.
For me, Froome went back on his word, and for me, is not a guy I like for that reason. End of story. Yes, because it obviously wasn't part of the plan. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they had a chat between themselves, and Brad said this is okay. But, that's why obviously I questioned him. But there was no conversation. It was not part of the plan.
I think I spoke to him later, and I think what he was in his head was he was trying to get more time on Nibali because he was.
But that wasn't our priority.
No, but in doing that, took his eye off the ball.
We had a plan, and then suddenly he got led astray. And okay, you could take it either way. He was either naive and he didn't really mean it, or this, that, and the other. But when I think of what he's done since, I think he's not that naive. And he did but go back his word. Me, Bradley, and Dave B were in the room in the back of the bus. We came to an agreement, and he renegated on that agreement. End of story.
I was actually rooming next to Bradley Wiggins when that happened.
What happened?
I was sitting in my room and Brailsford walked in and...
Did you drill a hole?
I was eavesdropping on the conversation.
How?
I'm in like a hotel in the Alpine area.
Paper thin.
Paper thin, and I can hear word for word what they were saying. And Brad
What'd they
goes,
say?
fuck it, mate, I'm out. Take the jersey. What the fuck was that?
With an Aussie accent.
Yeah, with an Aussie accent. And Brailsford goes, I don't know, mate. He went against order. He goes, mate, you might as well give him the yellow jersey. I'm not fucking right. He goes, Richie, Dodge, they all know what the fucking plan is. He goes against the orders. Fuck it, I'm not starting tomorrow. I'm telling you now, I'm out. I'm not putting up with that shit. This escalates, right? I'm listening to this going, I can't wait to go to the team dinner tonight and just spill the beans. So I went to the team dinner, told all the Greenedge boys, and they go, bullshit. And they know like I'm a serial bullshitter. But it was like, boy who cried wolf. No, I'm telling you the truth. I text Dave McKenzie, who's doing the interviews with SBS, and I told him word for word what happened. Like, he's not going to start if he goes against the orders. Macca rings me the next day. He's in the mix zone, and he rings me and goes, Jonesy, tell me the truth, mate. Is that bullshit what you told me, or is it the truth? Because I'm going to run with this. I'm going to hit Wiggo right now about what you are telling me. I said, Macca, I swear on my parents' life, it's the truth. He goes, all right, thanks, mate. Hangs up. And yeah, that's where like it all really came out. I was rooming with him. I spilt the beans to Macca.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. I could not believe what I was hearing. I literally got out of my room because I could hear yelling. You know where it's a muffled yell? And you go, that's Wiggo. Oh my God, that's Brailsford. So I literally
how did you actually hear?
You could hear them through the door.
Cracked the door open and...
Yeah, I was literally... because back then the internet was shit, so I had my Wi-Fi, I had my Lappy open with the Wi-Fi code. So if they saw me sitting outside the door, I could say, mate, bad signal.
Yeah.
Just trying to get it. I've got one bar.
You mind if I come in?
Yeah. But no, he teed off, man. It was fascinating. And then they released a doco called A Year in Yellow on BBC, and they went into all of that. And there was the famous scene of Yates in the car, and he goes, Froomey, I hope you know what you're doing. Like, they were pissed at him. So, yeah, it was all legit. Now we're talking about Greenedge. I want to click over to 2013.
Oh, well, that's a different year.
This is the centenary of the tour.
Oh, and it is soon.
Yeah, and coming into it, I had organised to do the AC/DC video. So we did Call Me Maybe in 2012, which was like a lip sync, viral, bloody went nuts. This was the year I said to Jerry, I'm going to do AC/DC. We're going to get 10,000 blow-up guitars, hand them out on the side.
How'd you get that across the line?
Well, they originally said no. He said, no, we're not in the business of handing out guitars down. I said, I've already sourced them from China. I can get them for 50 cents a guitar. He goes, get 10,000. So they shipped a pallet of these bad boys.
Well, they just changed?
Yeah.
We'll get 10. You were like, I'm hoping we can get 1,000.
Yeah. So we gave out more merch than some of the caravans that year. So we're going into the tour red hot, and we've committed to where the not the party team, but we really do care about having fun and having good content. And then famously, the bus smashes into the finish line.
This is how it happened. Came through towards the finishing line. And normally these banners are much higher than the bus, but it's not, because we're on the beach, they haven't put it up high enough. As he came under the banner, you'll hear a nasty crunch. And that's where it's punctured his AC system, I think, on the left of our picture there. Now, they've got to work pretty quick here, because the race is only 15 kilometres. It is approximately 20 minutes away, 19 minutes from the finish.
So they're going to have to do something about that as fast as they can.
You know, that story's been pretty well told, but I'll never forget the feeling of basically in a nutshell is Jerry gets to the finish. There's no bus there. He says, where's the bus? If Gossie wins, he's in yellow. We need the media publicity. They've wrangled it at the last minute. Gary, the bus driver, he was only there for 3 days. He gets passed through onto the course. Or actually, he was told not to go on the course. I think he went through the first guy. And then the guys after that were like, oh, well, he's been let on. Bring him in. And then Robbie McEwen was in the front seat and they're driving under the gantry. Robbie looks up and goes, no, you're fit. They've waved you through. Smashes into it. It explodes the air conditioning unit. Everyone was shitting themselves and we legitimately thought we were going to get kicked off the tour. Like, swear to God, we're done. Before it even started. And they literally finished the stage with like 2 minutes remaining. They were going to finish at a roundabout with 3K to go for official timing. It could have been an absolute balls up. That night, I remember I was staying at a side hotel with Julian Dean and we got caught up in the festivities and I'd had way too many cans. And this is where at the start of the show, some of these stories my parents don't know about. I remember waking up the next day, I'd had so many cans. I said to Julian, oh shit. He goes, what? I go, I haven't done the backstage. He goes, you have? I said, what do you mean I have? Because you uploaded it last night. I get on YouTube. It's already had 123,000 views.
Oh, no. Were you like, oh, what did I put up?
I press play and it's like watching it for the first time, shitting myself. I watched the video and I go, actually, that's not a bad little edit. And Jules goes, yeah, I picked the music that works.
You're like, did you?
I was like, geez, we dodged a bullet there. So anyway, the bus had no aircon. It's hot as hell down in, where did we start in that island?
Was it Corsica?
Corsica.
Yeah, Corsica, yeah.
Yeah. We get to stay, like that next day, Jerry's seeing the media, they're interviewing the bus driver, and Jerry starts going, we look like an absolute joke. And he goes, Dan, we won't be running that music video, mate. It's done. And I'm thinking, oh, bullshit. I speak 6 months. We've got 10,000 bloody guitars we've got to hand out. This is a shit show. Get to stage 3 and all of a sudden Simon Gerrans, who's carried the weight of this team with a brilliant lead out from Imps and everyone committed that day, win the stage and suddenly, mate, shackles are lifted. Like, and I said to Jerry, mate, I think the video's back on. And he's like, she's back on, Dan. But we take the ferry from Corsica to Nice. And on the ferry, Craig, the mechanic, you know, he's 40 kilos dripping wet. I say, mate, we're getting on the beers tonight. You know, I've got priors. So I'm thinking, even if I get to the point where I can't remember editing, drunk Dan, he's a really good editor. So just put him in control. I didn't give a shit. I was pumped. And Craig, I just remember the poor bastard, 5 a.m. on the ferry, just, you know, up and unders in the toilet. He was
he was no good.
He was no good. And the poor bastard, he has to do, you know what it's like, 10 time trial day. That isn't a mechanics grand final. You got to have your shit together. You got like
it's a stressful day.
Yeah. So whole team are pretty much hungover staff. We've all had a bloody ripped snorter. They were late for the time trial. I jump in the car and I said to Whitey, do you mind if I just jump in last minute? He goes, yeah, jump in, mate. We're about to go. And I just never forget the turn that Swain Toof did on the front. It's the fastest time trial of all time.
And sprint it in, guys. Sprint it in. Let's go all the way. Everyone's on. Let's go all the way, all the way. Fastest time. But under 1 second. Guys, we are the fastest time by under 1 second.
Average 67K, let's say 67. Anyway, they crossed the line and under 1 second. And then I just remember yelling out to Macca because I couldn't get in the mix zone. He's screaming. I go, Macca, what happened? And he owes me because I gave him the mail on Wiggins. And he says, no, you got the yellow jersey, Gero, you know. And it just, I again broke down in tears, slumped, just too much for me to handle. And then fast forward 2 days. So Gero's in the yellow and I was in the car when he's just done the podium. Me and Nygaard were driving him to the hotel. He gets in the car and he says to Nygaard, I'm giving the jersey to Imps tomorrow. Because we'd all thought about that on the same time, but that would mean that in a sprint, he'd have to fall back 16 spots. And when he said that, I was like, wow. And Gero goes, you know what? 2 extra days in yellow is not going to change my life, but shit, it'll change his. And without imps, wouldn't be in the jersey anyway. So
Wow.
I'm going to do it. And because I knew that beforehand, I was just like, oh, this is just one of the all-time. And I appreciate it because then I could craft my story for Backstage around that. So the next day there was a sprint. It didn't go to plan. They lined up Gossie or whatever. And I just remember I was there in Imps's face because I'm thinking, well, you're going to be in yellow.
Did Daryl know?
I think he did, but he was so like, you know what it's like as a sprint after the finish when it doesn't work, you're fired up. And he was talking to Lancaster, private conversation. I'm right in his face and he turns and he goes, you don't have to film everything, Dan. It was the first time he snapped at me. And I'm thinking, piss off, mate. You're about to get the yellow. This is my job here. You know, I'm not trying to cross the line. And then you got the embrace with Gero. Then I've ghosted Gero and got the conversation with Jerry. He said, oh, mate, that's the culture, the team. You're a very special person. It was just an amazing thing to witness firsthand in modern day cycling, like that level of generosity. Because if it was me, I'd keep it for 4 days. I like my teammates, but mate, Brand Jones.
Welcome to Backstage Pass, Stage 7. We've got a new theme song for the day. I've been playing this all in South Africa in celebration of the yellow jersey. So over to you, Steve-O.
And exactly what you said. The impact that it had on Gero didn't sort of course it would have still continued to have impact, but the secondary impact that Imps got out of it.
Oh, first African rider to wear the jersey.
It's huge.
And he's milked that cow till it's bleeding now.
All right, well, look, I've got a couple left. I've got one left and then my
Smokey.
Yep. Mine are pretty quick now.
Yeah.
Mine's a bit of an aesthetic one.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to throw Roubaix stages in the Tour de France. Recently returned. You know, they had them, I actually didn't know this, they had them quite often in the 80s. And I guess before that, they had them all the time because they were just sort of cobbles around and whatever.
Yeah.
But, you know, in 2004, there was only one sector. It was a bit of a gimmick stage. Ivan Mayo crashed. And I was like, you know what? Why are we doing this? So they took it out until 210. It returned and Contador hired Peter Van Petegem.
Oh, yeah.
Lorenzo's mate.
Yeah,
He hired him.
Good guy, eh?
They hired him to get him to survive the cobbles.
Yeah.
Hulshoff wins. Thomas is second. Cuddles is third.
Ah.
He could ride the cobbles.
He could.
14, the cobbles were back. It was a wet one. And this is why I thought I'd put this in because this 2014 cobble edition was really cool.
Yeah.
Because this is when Nibali ripped it.
Oh, yeah.
We had Nibali, we had Fuslang. They were ripping it because traditionally in this stage, and with Hulshoff winning it, and I remember that year because in 210, not CSC, Cervelo test team, they just controlled it like it was a classic stage. And, you know, Ken Shalara was trying to look after the Schlecks, but, you know, it wasn't quite happening.
They had the cobblestone bike, remember?
The cobblestone bike. It was like a proper, like, Roubaix winner. And 2014, the GC guys, like, they actually mixed it up. Lars Boom, he won that stage, but I remember Nibali actually dropped Boom at one point.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
This shouldn't be like this. It's wet.
Yeah.
Like, these guys should be suffering. And Fuslang was ripping it up. I'm like,
I think we had Kukleo finish 6th, did he?
He was up there too.
Yeah.
It was a gnarly stage. 15 was around, they had 4 sectors as well. Nothing really bad. Tony Martin won. There was no real bad sectors, but 2018 and 2022 last year were proper Roubaix sectors. 2015 especially had 21 kilometers of cobbles. Degenkolb wins it. It was pretty emotional, that. I remember, like, he was fully broke down. He loves Roubaix himself. I think for me, 2022, because I was there. I was on the side of the road. I was running from sector to sector. Clarkey was in the move.
Yeah.
He was up the road.
Yeah,
I was thinking,
yeah.
how good's this? He's up the road. And then all of a sudden it was getting to this point, I was like, I reckon Sparky might be able to get this.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's freaking out, eh?
Van der Horn is going to make it here, I believe. Can Simon Clark possibly get back at him? Comes out into the wind. It's going to be a throw to the line. Simon Clark, is he going to get there? He does it! Oh, my goodness. He's only gone and done it. Simon Clark, that has been an awful long road. I think he snatched it at the very line.
Because remember that go back to December. This guy didn't have a contract.
He didn't have a contract. And he gets just like a last-minute lifeline.
Yeah.
Didn't even ride the tour. It was like, Clark, he just doesn't give up.
Yeah.
So he weasels his way into the team, rightly so, gets his spot, gets in the break on the arguably one of the hardest days.
Well, I was staying at the Flandrian Hotel with Jamie Anderson that year, and they just had their whole driveway renovated and had an authentic cobblestone. And he said, do you want to give this to Clarkie tomorrow? And I said, yeah, sweet. And I'll say to Clarkie that I've plucked it off the actual race route just to give him more weight. I didn't realize that was punishable by law. So when I gave him that cobblestone, I had this random guy come up and drill me. He goes, where'd you get that? And I said, oh, it was from a mate's driveway. Like, I didn't get off the race route. He goes, no, but you just said, and someone else heard it and they called me the cobblestone Robin Hood. And they had a photo of us. So I had to lay low for the rest of that tour. That's probably why I haven't been invited back.
Well, there you go. You got to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Well, the Clarkie women's photo finish. Remember that? Taco van der Hoorn?
Yeah. It was, and that's where track background, and he's one of the craftiest, smartest bike riders. He's like Gero. He gets every drop of like his God-given talent. So that was a huge day.
Tour de France stage, Roubaix stages in the Tour de France. Are you yay or nay?
We're in the field of entertainment, mate.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you riders, you're just chess pieces.
Well, I'm not a rider anymore.
But back in the day, it's just like, mate, just drama. What I don't like is if major GC guys crash out and that's it. And that's ruined their chances. They've done so much work. But for the spectacle, mate, it is fantastic. It's just one of those elements that I'd say go all chips in. The purists, they hate it. But this is entertainment, mate.
I'm going to go straight into my smoky.
Yep.
So we've done our top 5. Now the last one. It's just that questionable one. Don't know where it really sits, but mine's purely aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
It's the polka dot jersey.
Yeah?
Well, the reason why is because when I was getting into it, I used to ride around in the polka dot jersey. I had one.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't really know I knew it was a mountain jersey, but I didn't really understand the whole point of it. I just thought it was a cool looking jersey. So I'm purely on the aesthetics of it. Everyone knows that I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
About the polka dot jersey, it was appeared in the first in 1933, the Tour de France. They were like, okay, you know what? We've got these mountains. We actually need a prize for it. So they created the mountain prize, but they never had a jersey. Not up until 1975 when the chocolate company sponsored it and the wrapping around the chocolate was polka dot. Hence where the jersey came from.
Right.
And they created this jersey so the leader of the classification would stand out, which obviously we know now. The thing I love about it is Richard Verronk's won it 7 times. He's got the ultimate. But around that time, Rasmussen, when he won it twice, and then like Pierre Rolland, they went the full polka dots.
Yeah.
You know, when they went like everything.
Yep.
Socks,
Bike.
helmet, glasses, shoes, computer, everything polka dots. I love that. When they go, like now, even I was looking just the other day at it, Ciccone, who won last year, he was full polka dots.
Yeah.
People go for it. You remember a couple of years ago, Magnus Cort Nielsen, when he got it, he was even saluting when he was taking out the preems.
Best polka dot story I can recall is Dan Tekla-Hymenot when he had it for 3 days, I think in 2015, and he got a ticker tape parade in Eritrea with polka dot flags everywhere. And he got keys to the country. And they gifted his family a house.
You're kidding?
Yeah. They went all chips in. And I remember because Dan rode at Greenedge in 2012 to 2014, I think. And he showed me footage of the Eritrea Nationals. 1 million people at the podium presentation. And there was a guy with
1 million
1
people?
million people. It was unbelievable. And
like just a sea.
Yeah, and he won it. So he was on the podium. He's a legend. And I just remember in the corner of my eye, I saw a guy with a massive stick of bamboo whipping people to get back, like laying into them. And I pointed and I go, Dan, what is that? And he just smiled and he goes, yeah, it's crazy. I was like, no shit. But yeah, I saw the footage of him going back with after the polka dots. It was unreal.
What do you got then?
All right, my final smoky is we talked about a bus driver, Gary, in 2013. Well, it was actually Lewis Murray's bus. Now, Lewis Murray.
Otathu.
Now, his full name is Luis Maria Diaz de Otathu. And he rode with Onse back in the day. Now, he's got a great story.
He was the bus driver at Greenedge, came with Neil Stevens, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, and he was so meticulous with that bus. Remember, if you had a little bit of dirt on your cleats or whatever, he would lose his shit. He just didn't like anyone making any mess. But just a great guy. I couldn't speak much English. So for 6 years, all my conversations was, Otafu! Yeah. Just, Dan, clean your boots. So Steve-O used to tell a famous story about Lewis Murray, and we hear these stories of riders that have mishaps just before the tour starters. Whitey, fall with confidence, trips on like a TV cable, breaks collarbone, out. So this happens all the time.
Because Whitey, was trying to get that start for years and years and years. Eventually gets it, crashes. Yeah.
Yep. And so, 95, I don't know who the rider was, but there was a late minute scratching. And up until this point, like Lewis Murray's like just a domestique, looking at his pro cycling stats, bit of a battler, but he's riding in, biggest team in the world at the time. And
hadn't he done a heap? I remember this story. Hadn't he done a heap of racing? He done like the Vuelta and Giro before that, because the Vuelta was before the Giro in those days.
I thought that. Then I've looked at pro cycling stats. He had 5 race days before the Tour de France.
So it's the opposite.
Tour Romedy. He's only down for one stage there. I don't know what happened.
So how was he the late call?
He was on holidays with his family, and he was like an hour away or whatever. So they called him up and said, we need you at the tour. And he was out of shape, in not good nick.
Why'd they choose him?
He was the closest rider. They needed someone within an hour, or they're going to start one short.
Oh, it was like on the day.
On the day or the morning of. Something happened. We need anyone. Who's the closest? They're on the phones. They get on to Lewis Murray. He goes to the start and he's just battling. Like, he's really struggling. There was a prologue at the start, 7.3K, just gets through that, almost misses time cut. And then stage 1, 228 flat, just battles through that. Stage 2, 241. His pins are burning at this point. Then he gets to the team time trial. Now, this team
it's early. Team time trial.
Yeah, stage 3. And this team is stacked. Like, you've got Laurence Jalabert, Brunel, Alex Zula, Neil Stevens. Team time trial, misses the time cut. He's out.
He got piped early.
In the team time trial. Now, that normally doesn't happen.
For him.
Nah, there's no waiting for Otafu.
He's gone. Poor bastard. He's been on the beach. He's been told he's going to have some time off.
Yeah, and he got piped.
He's one chance at the tour.
And Steve-O just recalls, he goes, he didn't just get piped. He got piped, I think, in the first 800. So poor Otafu.
Did they get him to do the first turn, probably?
Probably. He's out of the tour. Now, this isn't where the story ends. Back then, it was agreement, because prize money, they would divvy it up. Some teams, they get to the end of the season, they divvy the entire season's prize money, goes to stuff. But back then, it was just the 9 riders that start, whatever prize money we get, we chop it up. And if you start the tour, no matter where you finish, you are part of the equal chop. It doesn't go on stage. So he's ridden 3 stages of the tour.
Who won that year?
So that year, Indurain won.
Oh, yeah.
But Zula ran 2nd. Jalabert ran 3rd. So there's some good...
Probably got the KOM that year.
Yeah. Melchior Maury or whatever, great rider. He finished 5th, but they won the green jersey. They ran 2nd in the youth jersey and polka dots.
They cleaned up. They probably won the teams.
Polka dots, they were 2nd.
Oh, okay.
And the teams, they won the teams. So in the chop up, Lewis Murray for 3 stages got 60,000 euros in 1995. He used that to buy a shop, like a cafe or whatever, set his entire family up on that 60 grand. It's one of the greatest stories in terms of Smokies. And it's a lesson for anyone. You're never out of the fight. You're never out of the fight. You never know when someone's going to call you up at the last minute. Just be present. Don't burn anyone. Lewis Murray, great character. So they said even to that day, he was one of those riders they loved having on the bus. And, when you get piped after the 3rd stage, 60,000 euro, to me, that's one of the great Tour de France stories.
To end that story, I always loved to go back to the aesthetics. I love the Onse kit. For the Tour de France, they used to get the pink Onse kit.
Yeah.
And as the years went on, I understood, because Lewis Murray or Tatham, he never Well, I guess because he's English, he never really told that he was a pro and
No,
what level.
no.
So eventually I found out he was on Onsay. I was really intrigued. I was like, do you ever get one of those pink jerseys? Yeah, I got one. I'll bring it for you. So he gave me one of those pink jerseys. I cruise around it. It's a long sleeves jersey and it's got his name in it. And I didn't know that full story. Actually, I'd never heard the full story.
I think if you were like Chris Yule Jensen, there's no way you would have got that jersey because he was notoriously messy on the bus. You used to pick up your wrappers and you took care of the bus. I think that's what got you the jersey, mate.
Jonesy, been a good top 6.
Oh, mate, this has been great. What other races have we got coming up?
Let's just roll them out. Yeah, we can do the Anico tour.
Yeah, perfect. We could do the one-day classics in Canada. Got a couple of yarns about that. But, mate, it's been an absolute privilege. Good luck at the tour this year. It's a shame you won't have the Coca-Cola media parties, but you're the ultimate professional, so you wouldn't be on the Terps either.
No, not at all.
Enjoy.
Well, there we have it. It was a bit of a different one. Dan Jones, how many great stories does he have? Oh, it was really fun sitting down with Dan, recording with him. I'm going to get him back for another top 6 in the future. I hope you guys have been enjoying the tour. Still a lot more to come. Big thanks goes out to our major partner, MAAP. Red Bricks Media, who put this together, you guys for listening, and of course the Life in the Peloton team behind the scenes. Send in your feedback. I love hearing from you guys. And look out for me at the tour. Get across to the Cycling Podcast and have a listen to me yarning on with the boys there as well. And until next time, take it easy. Cheers.
That iconic music in this episode was composed by none other than the legend, Pete Shelley. Cheers, mate.